What's going on, everyone, and welcome into Plizont's podcast, filled to the brim with glitchy analysis and freezing cold takes, so cold that they're boiling hot. Today's episode, we are going to be previewing the Kentucky Wildcats football program. Let's get into the stars. On offense, wide receiver Barion Brown, one of the best in the country. This guy's the ultimate playmaker on third down in any quarter. This is going to be Kentucky's target. Get him the ball, yard after catch. This is the man right here, 100%. And then on the offensive line, you've got Eli Cox. Now, everybody knows it's important to establish the run game in college football, especially in the SEC, and it's going to be the responsibility of Eli Cox to do that. He's going to be the captain of this offensive line, and I think he plays a pivotal role in whether or not Kentucky can establish solid offense every single possession. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, you've got Jamon Dumas-Johnson, inside linebacker, probably going to be the play caller on the field for this team. He is going to probably lead the team in tackles, and I think he's going to play a tremendous role in establishing an underrated defense for sure. And then the defensive back unit, we've got Maxwell Hairston. He's going to be the DB1. If you see your wide receiver one getting locked up against Kentucky, this guy is the one to do it. Now, let's talk about some of the key losses and key additions to this team. The losses side of things, you got Devin Leary, your quarterback, obviously the leading passer and huge playmaker for this team last year. And to pair with him, Ray Davis. Both of these guys get drafted. Ray Davis led the team in rushing last year, one of the better running backs in Kentucky history. So massive losses in production on offense. And then on defense, one of the best, if not the best corner in all of Kentucky history, Drew Phillips, gets drafted. So those are three massive losses. And then on the addition side of things, I've already talked about Jamon Dumas-Johnson transferring in from Georgia, but his teammate from Georgia, Brock Vandagriff, also transfers in, and he is going to play a massive role in this Kentucky team. And that leads me to my first discussion point. Brock Vandagriff is the X factor for this Kentucky team. If they want to have a winning year, it's going to be at the hands of Brock Vandagriff. We have not seen a ton of this guy at Georgia. Not a lot of playing time, obviously. Stetson Bennett, what came before him, and then after that, Carson Beck is now the starter there. And that's why he's transferred into Kentucky, to play some college football. That's exactly what he's going to do. But the question on whether or not he's a competent quarterback still remains, and we're going to have to wait for the season to start to get an actual answer. My second talking point that I wanted to talk about, this Kentucky defense is one of the best in the country, specifically the front seven. The defensive line is stacked. The linebacking core is really talented. I think that this is going to be the reason why Kentucky is competitive in almost every single game that they play. Offenses are going to be miserable trying to run the football. And best believe, I think this Kentucky team is going to be top 25 in sacks. So keep an eye out for this defense. Underrated for sure. Top 15 in the country, maybe top 25. It's going to depend on how the schedule plays out. That's my third talking point. Any other year, this Kentucky team is 9-3 or 10-2, but they got an awful schedule. Really tough road games at Ole Miss, at Texas, at Tennessee. I don't know if Kentucky has the wherewithal to win all of these games, but now let's get into the record prediction. I've got this really talented Kentucky team going 6-6. Let's go game by game. Southern Miss is, I think, an easy win, obviously. It's really hard for a group of 5 team to travel on the road to an SEC team and win. Then they host South Carolina. And while I think South Carolina can keep this game competitive, I give Kentucky the home field advantage. I think it's such an important part of football. But then they host Georgia, and that's where that home field advantage goes away. Georgia is stacked with talent. They've owned Kentucky almost every single year for decades now. And so I don't think Kentucky can pull out the win here. But then they host Ohio. Not Ohio State, just Ohio. That's another easy win. And then they go at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a college football playoff contender. I don't think Kentucky is. Not only that, but they're on the road. Jackson Dart might cut up this Kentucky defensive back unit. I'm not very confident in them, so I give Kentucky the loss there. But then they come back, they host Vanderbilt, another easy win for the same reasons as Southern Miss and Ohio. Just talent disparity, home field advantage. Let's go at Florida, another loss. Florida has done a really good job of beating Kentucky up until recently, but I think Florida comes back and establishes that old culture of winning against Kentucky, especially at home. But then they come back and they host Auburn. And now I have Auburn also going 6-6, but Kentucky and Auburn are not the same. I think this Kentucky team is way better than the Auburn Tigers. They just got a really bad break in the schedule. I give Kentucky the win here, traveling to Tennessee. Now, Tennessee, I think, comes right off of an Alabama loss. They're going to be looking for revenge, and they're going to get it versus Kentucky. That's another L there. Then coming home versus Murray State, obviously the homecoming game. I don't think an SEC team of this caliber has lost a homecoming game like this in maybe the history of college football. That's another W. At Texas, that takes the wind out of their sails. That's a brutal loss. I think Texas is probably going to run up the score there. And then the rivalry versus Louisville. Like it or not, this Louisville team is really good, and I think that they can come into Kentucky and pull out the win. Now, that is obviously a game where it could go either way. It's pretty much a 50-50 game. I'm leaning on Louisville here, but Kentucky could definitely win that. So overall, 6-6 season. I think this Kentucky team could go, like I said, 9-3, 10-2 any other year. They have 3 brutal road games and a couple of other games at home that just, it's not going to cut it. So 6-6. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Stay tuned for next episode. We're going to be talking about LSU. And thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.